Welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show with Dawn Jarvis, the diverse nurse. And in this podcast, we will be talking about healthcare, self-care, diversity, careers, and well-being from a Black woman's perspective. We're really happy that you're here. So if you're ready, let's get on with the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dawn Jarvis Show. I'm Dawn Jarvis, and I'm the diverse nurse. This is the podcast where I talk to and about busy leaders, professionals, and business owners. I learn about who they are, what they do, and why they do it, and how they prioritize their own health and well-being and stay focused, positive, and productive. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by the marvelous Mallory Rothstein, who I heard speaking at an event. I accepted her invitation to connect on LinkedIn. We connected and chatted, and I'm delighted that she's agreed to be a guest on this podcast. We are going to be discussing everyone is more than their job title, and that no matter what title someone has, they should be respected, and everyone's story matters, including administrative professionals. Hi, Mallory. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. I feel very honored to join your podcast lineup. So just excited to have this really important conversation today.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's so good to see you. And thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to our chat and hearing about all what you're up to. So let me introduce you properly. Mallory Rothstein is an administrative business partner at Google Search Ads team. She is a keynote speaker, coach, and podcaster for administrative professionals. She utilizes her 6 years in various administration roles, and she founded More Than an Admin, a movement to influence how the world views and respects administrative professionals, and for administrative professionals who want to learn how to embrace all aspects of their identity and become the best versions of themselves, both professionally and personally. Mal also founded Learn What Matters Foundation that focuses on helping high school students invest in their personal development program through workshops, high school alumni engagement, and a scholarship program. In 2020, she became a TEDx speaker, which you can find on YouTube, titled What Going Back to My High School Taught Me. While she's a native Jersey girl, she now calls Central Florida her home. Mallory, that is so impressive. What an impressive bio. So how did you get to here and all these amazing things, and why do you think that everyone is more than their job title? I agree, by the way, before you start.
Yes. So I guess I'll go back to kind of originally when I was in college and high school. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I went to college, and my first chemistry test I failed. And I didn't just fail a little bit, I failed terribly. And it caused me to really reevaluate a lot of things in my life. And did I really want to be a doctor? Did I think I just needed to be a doctor because it was a fancy title, because people would be impressed by who I was? And I decided to not pursue being a doctor anymore. And while I was in college, I did a lot of different things. And I ended up becoming an admin just kind of for pure luck. I gave a speech at a gala, and a CEO came up to me and said, "What do you do with your life? And do you have a passport?" And I ended up saying I was getting rejected from jobs. And then I also said that I had a passport. And so I started being one of his associates, and I traveled kind of the world with him. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And, for me, I always had said in that role, I was 22 at the time. I was literally traveling the world with the CEO. And on the outside, people might think, oh, I was called an associate, but it was essentially an assistant. And that, I didn't maybe have certain skills. Maybe they didn't think that I was a leader in a lot of ways, but people learned over time that I was so much more than my job title. And the work that I did, I was having a lot of impact on the CEO and what he wanted to do and his viewpoints. We had a really close relationship, and it taught me really early on, especially when I used to see people treat the CEO very differently than they would treat me or someone else at the company. And I loved honestly, I quit that job largely in part because not the CEO and stuff, but when I used to see how the world operated at the top, my favorite people to talk to were the people that were the drivers, were the,
Absolutely.
wait staff or assistants. Like, it was not people that were like these celebrities or these big business people. In fact, I really did not like most of the people that I met that had really fancy titles. And I learned, like I said, really quickly that no matter what someone's title is, you should always respect them. You should get to know their story, because a lot of people are in certain positions for certain reasons. And that doesn't mean that they're any different than maybe who you are or someone in your life is. And so then when I came to Google, it was I wasn't just that it wasn't just my job title. I had to also say I wasn't the company that I worked for as well. I say all the time, just because I work at Google does not make me cool, does not make me should
Are
have a
you
lot of
sure?
clout.
Are you
Yeah,
sure, Mallory? It must be
I
pretty
mean,
cool to work at Google. Come on.
I mean, it is cool, but I always say, you shouldn't just say, "Oh, this person must be the smartest person, the coolest person ever," just because they say they do work at Google. And I really always, when I met people, would really make it apparent that even though I work at Google, I'm not stuck up. I don't think I'm better than you in any way. I really look at everyone, whatever company, whether it's, I'm an admin, so I look at admins that work at very small companies, that are virtual assistants, whatever, the same way that I view people that work with me. And I really just believe, through my experiences, that again, people are so much more than their title, whether that's professionally or personally. And when you email with people, when you remember that, I think that you see the human aspects of people a lot more too. There's so many times where people will complain to me at work about another assistant or another person, and I always say, have you scheduled a call with them? Because there are people that drive me absolutely crazy at work and over email. And then I meet with them, and then you hear their story that they're juggling 800 things, that they had a terrible onboarding experience and they have no idea what they're doing. And I've made so many more allies and friends and have gotten to know people, and just because I didn't judge them again based on their title or who they were. I really understood their story and took the time. And I just am a really big believer that everyone is just so much more than their job title. They have so much more to offer you in the world than just, what they have on LinkedIn. So.
Oh, that's such a good stat. I love that. I love it. And there's a few things I wanted to say. Is that it's sort of in my journey, and when I started my nursing journey, which was a long time ago, it was very much an apprenticeship program. We didn't go to university straight off at the time, although I did eventually. And it was very much, you were the bottom. And the people you made friends with were the nursing assistants and the cleaners, and they knew everything. They knew everything. They were the guide, they were support, they were mother. They knew, they had the respect of the charge nurses, of the doctors. They knew everything. They'd been there for years. They knew everything. And all through my career, I was like, make friends with the cleaner, and you need to make friends with the assistant, the executive assistant, the secretary, the consultant, whoever, because they are the key. They are the gatekeepers. They know everything. They know where their bodies are buried. They know how to get in touch with people. They know everything. And, if you respect them and make friends with them, you have an ally. I love the word that you use, the word ally. You have an ally for life. And I have never, ever forgotten that. And even now, when I'm sort of like making connections with people around my management consultancy business, you need to get to know the person's assistant. You need to get to know them and make a relationship with them. Call them before you call them and say, and I really like what you said around having a telephone conversation with people, because email is awful. So I used to have a trick, and I used to teach this, is that if you've got to have a difficult conversation with someone about something, don't send them an email. Write the email, then phone them up and say, I've got to send you this email, but I don't want you to get this email and be annoyed because I sent you this email. The reason I say I'm going to send you this email is because of this, but me and you are cool. Do you know what I mean? But I have to send you this email. And it makes everything better, because there's nothing worse than an email war, is there? You get some email, think, oh my God, why'd you send me that email? So, it's really, really important. And as you said, to respect people, and people, they are mothers, they're daughters, they're whatever they are. They're not just that person working in your organization. They are everything. So I love that. I love that, Mallory. So tell me about sort of more than an admin, your
Yeah, it's
movement.
Yeah, so it's funny. So, I used to talk to a lot of admins at Google, and when they used to I used to like to schedule with people and then be like, "What's your story?" Like
Yes.
I love to
Yes.
get to know people's stories. So when I used to share my story, I used to talk about learn what matters, which at the time I was really involved, and I still have stuff that I was doing workshops with high school students. I was coaching some. I have my scholarship program, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had this." And I was realizing that a lot of the things I was talking about with high school students, I was also talking with different admins that I was coaching or being asked to mentor. And then
Mhm.
I realized I was like, oh, what kind of resources and things are there out in the community
Mhm.
for assistance specifically
Mhm.
to not just focus on their personal job. This is not a movement about how do you become the best admin technically. This is
Mhm.
about how to become the best human being, how to embrace yourself, which inherently will make you a better admin at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And so I didn't see anything out there that for me resonated with me. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I want to create it. And it
Brilliant.
went from a very small seed to
Uh-huh.
growing very quickly. And so I started with Clubhouse chats
Mhm.
once a week with different admins in the community. And then I was like, I have so many admins at Google. Let me kind of start something and see how this grows and get some feedback. So I call them all like my beta testers. And
Mhm.
I started an internal movement as well. It's kind of like I say, like a chapter of the bigger movement
Mhm.
externally. So
Mhm.
we have a monthly talk series. It's going to turn into kind of my external podcast I'll be launching soon.
Brilliant.
And we have kind of the same kind of thing of like Clubhouse, but I call them community chats internally. I wanted to
Fantastic.
engage, yeah, 25% of the admins at Google within a year, and we totally surpassed that. So we have almost
Amazing.
500 people engaged and like growing and really popular. And I think it just resonated with a lot of admins because again, so many of us feel very defined by our job title or out,
Mhm.
or not even that we do, but a lot of times other people do.
Mhm.
And they have so many, certain stereotypes or whatever about us. And this is really helping admins really embrace who they are
Mhm.
and get other people to really respect our role
Mhm.
and what value we can bring to them.
Mhm.
And so
I'm going to ask you something sort of a little bit. I don't know if you think it's controversial. You can tell me. So I've met a lot of people sort of on management training schemes on the fast track that do like an admin role to a chief exec as a sort of way to learn the business.
mhm,
Really as a stepping stone to
mhm,
sort of being a senior manager in an organisation. I've seen that in the National Health Service in England,
mhm.
and I imagine that people do that in other organisations. Do you see that as part of the admin role, and do you see an admin as being an admin professional as a career in its own right, to do that? Because I think that I've got an intern who's a trainee executive assistant, and I think that that's a fantastic role, and that you can learn lots of things around that, and you can use it to step off or stay in. I guess it's up to her, but I was just wondering what you thought about that, Mallory.
Yeah, so I love that you bring this question up because I talk about all the time. There are three types of admins out there.
Uh-huh.
There's the one that is the career admin. For whatever
Mhm.
reason, they decided this is their lane, this is what they want to do, they own it, they love it, and that's awesome. The
Mhm.
second one is I know that this is definitely not what I want to do.
Mhm.
And I'm using it as a stepping stone. To be
Mhm.
quite honest, I've told everyone I don't want to be an admin forever. I want to
Mhm.
be a full time entrepreneur.
Mhm.
I want to
Mhm.
be an author. I want to be
Yeah.
stuff, but I've
Yeah.
loved this role. I've actually stayed in this role longer than I thought I ever would
Mhm.
because of how much I've loved it and I've
Mhm.
gained value from it.
Mhm.
And then the third type of admin is I have no freaking idea what I want to do with my life. I just happen to get into this role
Yeah.
and I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I really think that each person is in such a different lane and everyone how they view this role as a career or not is totally up to the individual, and that's exactly why even more than an admin for me is really important because there are people that that again that are in an admin role, but that's not who they are. That
Mhm.
they're not saying to themselves, "I'm an admin forever." And there's other
Mhm.
people that are like, "I want to be called an admin forever. I love this role," and
Mhm.
each and no one is wrong or right.
Mhm.
I think that we just need to embrace it. Just like if people are program managers or nurses or
Mhm.
whoever,
Mhm.
that everyone could go on a different track. There are some nurses who
Absolutely.
might want to be a PA one day. There's
Yeah.
teachers who might want to be a principal one day. I think it
Yeah.
really depends on who you are.
Yeah, I think it's like a base, and it's sort of you know that you learn everything, don't you? So I learned a lot about the healthcare industry from working from the ground up as a nurse. I've learned a lot about it, but I sort of went into corporate work and into sort of like healthcare commissioning, where I actually bought healthcare services, and I really believe in people. And I say I'm a nurse, and they say, but no, do you work with patients? And I say, I work for patients. Yes, I do. But I'm not on the shop floor, actually. I don't touch people anymore, but I still am a nurse, and that's where I learned everything around that. So I'm a career nurse, but I do other things. And it's like you saying around, I always wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur, and I am, but I'm doing that as a nurse. And sort of like you're doing it,
Yeah,
you're being an entrepreneur around the admin thing, but you do other
exactly.
things as well. So that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I would say I
you
think
can
the biggest reason why a lot of people do leave the ladder of an admin is a big reason for pay.
Mhm,
Program managers, project managers, any other type of role makes a lot more money sometimes, depending on the company, than
mhm,
admins, and that's why I think is the single biggest reason why people leave,
mhm,
is because of the money, because there's just a cap sometimes, again, in different companies, depending on where you are.
mhm,
But I do think a lot of people do enjoy it, especially if you work for a great executive or
mhm,
executives.
mhm.
And I think it makes a huge difference. So anyway.
And I'm learning that that have to have a really good admin is actually key to your business, isn't it? Because there are things like I like to be like a rock. I want to be like a rock star. They just roll me in and roll me out, and you know what I mean. So, but I need everybody else doing the other stuff. Do you know what I mean? I just want to do the talking,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
to be able to do that, you need really good support. You need a really good team, and you need to have someone who knows what's happening in your business, because that you can't be doing that because you're the talent, I suppose. And that so you need someone who sort of knows how the business works, knows how you work, and can support you to do that. And that and I have done that for people, in even though I've not had that title, but it's been a real good learning thing to learn about the business. And I know in management jobs I have employed um admin roles and said, this is a training role, and I've made that really clear, that no, this is an admin role, but this is not, I don't expect you to stay in this role. I expect you to move into different roles, but this is about learning about the business.
Mhm.
And then you can fly. So then they accept the pay, but know that they're going to the plan is to move. And I think, like you said, there's different strokes for different folks, really, isn't there?
Mhm.
So about what they want to do. Um, I want to talk a little bit more. You've mentioned it already about the Learn What Matters Foundation, and about sort of that help in high school. I really love the fact that you sort of you're giving back, and you're thinking about your own high school experiences, and want to help there. And I think I did watch your TED talk, and talk about people. It's a bit like the admin roles, isn't it? People have different experiences of high school. That's either the best days of their life or the worst.
Yeah.
I'm a bit in the middle. So
Mhm.
the last 2 years of sort of what we call of school were actually okay. They were better than the rest, but I sort of like grew into myself and knew what I was going to be. But the period leading up to that was not good at all. So
Mhm. I feel
it's,
you.
yeah, so people have different experiences, but I really like that it's sort of a foundation that helps in personal development, because I think personal development does start at that age, doesn't it? Really, you really need to be thinking about it at that age, and to have the support to do that is really, really good. So tell us a bit about that, Mallory.
Definitely. So for me, and I'm still in way the early stages of it, but the idea is to have more than an admin, is kind of like the LLC, and then to have a
Mhm,
percentage of the
mhm.
profit go to Learn What Matters.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So yeah, so I want people that if they purchase, a book or something, that they know that it's going to be going to high school students as well, a portion of
Mhm,
it. And it really came with, like, my experience. I talk a lot about being bullied, and how I got out from being bullied and in a really dark place from watching
mhm,
Oprah.
Oh,
but
love Oprah.
Oprah, I love Oprah. She is the best,
Yeah.
but she wasn't speaking to, 14, 15-year-olds.
No.
Her target audience was like middle-aged women, but I used to be
Absolutely.
obsessed with the show, and I was like, why isn't there an Oprah for the younger
Oh, yeah. How
generation?
fab. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
brilliant.
so
Yeah.
I kind of was like thinking that I want to take everything that I learned throughout my life and really help high school students that they understand what personal development is. It's a less scary term than mental health or
Yes.
like,
Yes.
therapy. But
Yeah.
it's kind of disguised as that in a way, but it's a
Yeah.
nicer, positive word, personal
Yes.
development.
Yeah.
And to be honest, a lot of high school students love it. I've never had one high school student not be engaged, to be honest, which has been
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
To give them the tools so that when they graduate high school or wherever or homeschool or whatever they're doing, that they feel like when they turn 18 and they are
Mm-hmm.
officially an adult, that they have a tool set that they can go into the real world and feel confident. They can feel that if they go through something in life, they have something that they could say, okay, maybe I need to journal now. Maybe I need to meditate. Like they have all these kind of life skills to go back to. They
Mm-hmm.
understand what does it take to build a really strong network. They understand health, like all these things that we don't really learn that much in high school. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to give to high school students and to not just say. A big thing for me too is to really model it
Mm-hmm.
as well
Mm-hmm.
in
That's
my current
amazing.
day.
I know.
So
I love
everything
it.
I really try to model as well.
That's amazing. And I really like what you said around, you know, the actual word mental health with the word mental. It's sort of like it's like a bit of a bogey word, isn't it? Really. But if you talk about personal well and development, if you talk about resilience, if you talk about well-being, that's nothing. And that's another matter. And what actually you're giving people is the tools to be an adult. It's a confusing enough time. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made about the future, really, and probably at a time where you're least able to do that, and to sort of have the time and to really think about that problem solving, sort of, what resources are available to you, and that you're not alone, I think is really, really, really good. I think that some young people that I know or know, children of friends of mine, they're really struggling, with exams and, having to make decisions about, college and, what they're going to do. They're 16. It's just ridiculous, sort of like,
Yeah.
and this it leaks in various ways in behaviors and stuff like that. And I think that a lot of investment, a lot of time, money and energy in lots of areas would be saved by having these tools to sort of like help people with those decision making skills, and at what they call adulting, which I think, young
Mm-hmm.
people are young people for a long time. I've got a 24-year-old,
Yes.
and I'm not saying he's not an adult. He is, but sometimes he's still a little boy, and you sort of like, I just have to, you'll hate me for this because he's going to edit this, but but it's, you're still like thinking, well, yeah,
Yeah.
and sort of like the difference between him at 24 and me at 24. Like I was like engaged at 24 and gonna get married and all
We-
sorts of things, and had my own house,
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
funny
very
you say
difficult.
that because I'm 28 and my mom at 27 had me. And I always say to her, I don't know how you had me at 27 because I can't imagine being pregnant right now.
Yeah.
Um, so I totally feel you. And really like I've been very into brain health recently.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And I think that when people talk about mental health or anything like that, we really should be talking about brain health and
mm-hmm,
that we look at all different parts of the body when you go to a doctor, but a lot of times we don't look at the brain, I think, often enough. And I really think it's important for people to think about mental health as really just brain health
mm-hmm,
at the end of the day. And so that's what I've been really interested in lately in my life. And I got scans of my brain, I got SPEC scans through
mm-hmm,
the Amen clinics. And I did it very proactive,
mm-hmm.
but it was very interesting the results to actually see my brain where it has lower oxygen levels, the
Oh,
activity
wow.
level. Yeah, it was cool. It's definitely an investment. I
Yeah.
definitely had to save up and stuff for it, but
Mm-hmm,
it was worth it for me. The visual for me was really powerful, and it made a lot of sense as to things that I struggle with
mm-hmm,
my health journey. Like,
mm-hmm,
I tell everyone I'm not perfect. Like
mm-hmm.
I have a huge issue with concentration. It's very hard for me to focus.
Yeah.
And I, actually saw at my scan that I have head trauma that I didn't even realize. And
Oh,
I think it was from a
wow.
ski. a skiing accident that I went into years ago, and I've hit my head like twice very hard, and you
Mm,
could see that there is lower oxygen level in my prefrontal cortex, so where
mhm.
concentration is. So that I was talking about with the doctor with that. But again, you just don't know about these things, and I wish it was more accessible for people to get scans done
Yeah,
in a
and
proactive way.
And also, when you have that information, I'm very much into patients, clients, service users knowing about their own health, because it empowers you to make decisions, and it also enables you to give yourself a break, really,
Yes.
around some things that you might struggle with. So, you say that
Mhm.
you find it difficult to concentrate. It's empowering to know that there is a reason for that, and that there are
Exactly.
some coping strategies that you can do, and there's things that you can explain and also not beat yourself up about, because there's a reason for it, and you know what you can do about it, and then you can plan your life differently. So I think it's really
Yes.
important to be in charge of your own health, to be very knowledgeable about your own health, because then you can play to your strengths, can't you, really, and sort of sort of mitigate the things that you might not be so good at. So I was going to ask you, so how do you manage your own health and self-care and your well-being? But that's one of the ways, by being very empowered about it.
Yeah, and I'll just add one thing before I answer this is for me, I was so when I saw the scans and saw certain things that were going on, I was actually so proud of myself. And that was something the doctor said was like, wow, you've accomplished X, Y, and Z. You should just
Hmm.
be so proud of yourself that you've accomplished this despite having certain like head trauma or damage in certain areas. Like
Hmm.
that you overcame that. And I
Hmm.
felt very empowered
Hmm.
after that conversation. And so
Yeah.
my health journey has been just like I'm sure with everyone, roller coaster ride.
Hmm.
I've in the last, I'd say since I recently moved to Florida. So since
Hmm.
April, I've really tried to go full force on health.
Hmm.
So for example, I used to go to bed extremely late. Actually, yesterday was I had an exception. I went to bed very late, but tonight I'm definitely not doing that again. But I started investing heavily in my sleep. So I
Hmm.
bought these blue light blocking glasses that
Yeah.
completely have changed my life. So
Yeah.
I wear them before I go to sleep. I have a new eye mask. I have my diffuser. I have a salt lamp. I take a bath every night. Like I have a whole night routine
Oh, this is
that I do.
amazing. I'm so
I
proud of you.
Yes, thanks. And then I eat very clean, except on certain exceptions. I drink pretty much only water and tea.
Hmm.
I exercise. I take walks now a lot more. Even if I just am walking around my apartment when I
Hmm.
take a call. So like if I'm on the phone with my friend, I try not to just sit. I try to go up and just walk, even if again it's late at night and I just walk around my apartment. But
Hmm.
just to keep myself moving, um, and it's just like little things, I get very overwhelmed when I feel like I have to do 800 things at once, but
Hmm.
I've really tried to just slowly implement stuff.
Hmm.
There was like a month where I told myself, you do not need to think about crunches or planks or weights, just walk. Just
Hmm.
walk 30
Hmm.
minutes a day.
Love that.
I've
Yeah.
done that. Because I think, like I said, people get very overwhelmed. But I had to ask myself, and I'm now on a no alcohol kick for
Mm.
hopefully ever. But I'm realistic and know here and there I might have a
Yeah.
sip of something. I've never really been a huge drinker, but I have friends that love to drink or that I used to go out with. And I told them, I'm like, I got these brain scans done. I really want to invest in health. And like, I'm going to say no. It's really hard to do that. And I tell people a
Yeah.
lot, like, you have to make a really big decision. Like, are you really going to take care of your health the best that you can?
Mhm.
Are you going to do it slowly? But people know what's right or wrong. And I had to get really honest with myself to be like, okay, you say you want to be healthy, but why are you staying up till 4 a.m.? You want to be healthy, but why are you like eating this? You say you want to be
Yeah.
healthy, but you're not exercising. And again, I just started making small steps, and it's a roller coaster ride. Sometimes, when I travel, I fall off the wagon, but then I find a way to get back on.
Mhm.
I don't want
Mhm.
to ever preach to anyone that I'm super perfect. I'm definitely not, but
Mhm.
I will say it has made a huge difference, not just in my like health, but my confidence. My cousin and so when I was younger,
Mhm.
I got made fun of a lot for my acne and skin by people
Oh.
in my family, whatever. And my sister and my cousin within the last month are both like, your skin looks so good. What are you doing? And I'm like, the only thing I have no makeup on now besides eye makeup. I'm like, the
You look
only thing that I
lovely.
do is I drink water, I drink
Yeah.
healthy. It makes a
Yeah.
huge difference. And then my productivity has been a lot better. And I tell people, once you focus on your health, you will see every other aspect in your life, I feel as though really blossom and improve, because so many people, they're tired,
Mhm.
they have pain. Like a huge thing
Mhm.
for me is trying to get rid of random, I believe, emotional pain that's kind of manifested in my
Yeah.
body in certain
Yeah.
ways. I
Yeah.
have a foam roller, that's something else that I've invested in.
Yeah.
But people have to what was I going to say? Man, I lost my train of thought. Um it will come back to me.
Think,
Anyway,
think about their health, don't they, in the sort of like wider picture. And sort of so what I hear is, you're glowing, you look fantastic. And, you talked about small steps, and you talked about walking and not sort of worrying about sort of like technical exercise and stuff like that.
yes.
Doing what you can to do, and it will come, it will come, and you can see the results,
Yeah,
definitely.
and that's the thing is, it can get very hard because at first, and with anything, it's gonna stink. I love Coke. I love soda, not crack or anything. I love soda. That's a big thing for me.
Dear
I
listeners, she does not mean cocaine. Okay.
yeah, I realized that came out wrong. Yeah, I
I
love
know it
soda.
did.
That's a big I love soda, I love candy.
Yeah.
Um, those are things that I'm like I can eat them all day long and drink that all day long. And like I said, I just had to say to myself, how do I feel after that? And I
Mhm.
got really crystal clear on, what do I want to feel like? What do I want to look like? And I did a ton of research, and I tell people all the time, you have to really do a ton of research, and you have to think about the long game, not the short game. The short game is
Yeah.
going to be, it's going to stink to wake up and have to exercise or go to sleep, whatever you decide to, it's going to stink. Sometimes I take cold showers because I know it's better for me, and
Mhm.
it stinks sometimes.
Mhm.
But then afterwards, I feel so much better when you keep doing it over and over and over again. And the last thing I'll say on this is, I also am a very big experimenter.
Mhm.
So, like on Saturday, I'm doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, so I'm like, that's my new thing that I'm gonna try out. I don't know if I'm gonna hate it or love it, but I'm gonna try it
Yeah,
out. And
I don't think it's gonna do you any harm. That's
yeah,
my
so
yeah.
yeah, so I tell people, you have to research and then try different things, because something that might work for your friend might not work for you. Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
I am not a big meditator. I love to do deep breathing with
Mhm.
music on. I do not love silence yet. I have to, again, small steps. But
Yeah.
for now, what works for me is I love deep breathing. I love to say my self affirmations,
Uh-huh.
and but I really do think, I'll just end with this. You must invest in your health. I can say from my own experience, I think, my mom, one of the biggest things she said to me in the last year is, you are such a happier person. You are such,
Mhm.
like, I can see all the differences, and it all stems from health. And once, COVID and everything happened, I had to ask myself, if I were to get COVID tomorrow, what am
Mhm.
I making the decisions to put myself in the best
Yeah,
position to make it and survive? And
absolutely.
you can't just depend on a vaccine. You can't just depend on medication. You really have to. You're not healthy just because you want to be healthy. You choose to be healthy because if you get into a car accident, if you get a disease, you're setting your bodies up to bounce back or to get
Mhm.
better and survive it. So
Yeah.
I know I went on a little bit of a rant, but
No,
I'm
no, I
like
loved
so
it.
into
It was
health right
good.
now. I'm
Some
so into
brilliant.
health.
Some brilliant tips there. That's amazing. That's really, really good, and sort of like, and sort of actionables, but small steps that will get you to where you want to be. And I really like what you said. What do I want to look like? What do I want to feel like? Sort of like to imagine it and sort of like manifest it. And the
Mhm.
results are there, aren't they? So
Mhm.
that's amazing. And the things that your mother said, that must resonate with you. And sort of like, about being happier and everything like that. So it's definitely, and I really agree, you do need to invest in your health, and sort of it's imperative to. And one of the reasons I speak to business owners and leaders is around, I don't think you can be a happy, successful person unless you're healthy as well, sort of, healthy,
Yeah.
and you look after your well-being, because doesn't matter how much money or how successful you are, if you're not healthy, it's not good. If you're not
Yeah,
sleeping, if
and
you're not,
and so much of your mood and energy is dependent on your health. And
Mhm.
people wonder, like, why am I not meeting, the love of my life? Or why am
Yeah,
I, friends don't
yeah,
like me? Or why are people not networking with me? I tell a lot of people it's sometimes your energy is off. And I can say this because I had terrible energy when I was younger, because I talk about I was bullied. I was really like in a shell. I didn't trust people. I was angry at certain parts. I was very quiet.
mhm,
And now, like the last couple years, I've really worked on it. And again, it really came from investing in my health, which made me more confident, which made me want to, talk to other people. I felt good about myself. And I really believe that
mhm.
health is, again, it's not just about your health. It's going to enhance, I believe, your relationships, your productivity, your business, all that other stuff
I
that
agree.
happen in your life. So,
I agree so much. That's really good. And we talked before we started recording. We talked about, is there a book or anything that sort of like
oh,
has helped
yes.
you and inspires you?
Yes. So, this is not a health book, even though I have a bunch of those if anyone wants them. But my favorite book of all time is The Five People You Meet in Heaven by
Mhm,
Mitch Albom. I
mhm,
also love Tuesdays with Maury that he wrote. But The Five People You Meet in Heaven is essentially, it's about and this is not a true story, but it's someone that passed away. You learn about this in the first couple of pages
mhm,
of the book. And he goes into like heaven and he meets five people that had a significant part on his life, or that he had a significant part on their life.
mhm,
And I read it when I was very young, and it had a
mhm.
huge impact on me, because I realized that um you pass so many people by in your life. You
Mhm.
walk, and you could just walk down the street and you never know if someone sees you,
Yeah,
how you can have an impact. And this book kind of personifies that message of all the people that you cross paths with. You just never know how big or how small the impact you're going to have on them, in a positive light or a negative light. And so to just really think about your energy, who you are, and what impact do you want when someone sees you or when someone has you in your life. And I really think about this book a lot. I've read it multiple times. The movie is very good too, and it's very close to the book. Normally, sometimes movies and books are not very
yeah,
similar, but they did a good job with the movie. So highly suggest it. And especially for young people to read it, because, like I said, I read it when I was in either middle school or high school, and it had a huge
yeah.
impact on how I wanted to move forward in this world.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I really like the idea of it, and sort of like just I was on a podcast the other day, and I told that story there, but I realized I haven't told it on this podcast. I was walking home very late. I went to see Trevor Noah. He was in London, and I was
Oh,
walking
nice.
home. But yeah, it was brilliant. And I was walking home and down my road very very late, and I sort of was walking down the road, had my head straight. And I was nearly there, and I saw something on the floor, and I thought, "What's that?" And it was a man lying in the road, and I
Oh
thought, I
my
thought, I sort of
gosh.
almost went past him, and I thought, hang on a minute, that was a person. And so I went back, and he'd fallen over and hit his head, and I sort of said, "Are you okay?" And sort of picked him up, and sort of like, "Are you all right?" And he had been drinking, but he was clean. But and he said that you are the first person. And I helped him up, stood him up, and said, "Do you know where you are?" Made sure he didn't have concussion, and he did know where
Yeah.
he was, and sent him on his way. And he said to me, "You're the first, loads of people walk past me, but you're the first person who stopped." And it just really affected me in that, and
Wow.
what you said about, you don't know what impact you're going to have on someone's life. I don't want to be the sort of person who walks past the man in the street lying on the road.
Mhm.
That's not the person you want to be, is it? Really, you want to be. I was
Yeah. And
thinking
then
how, yeah.
And then you hope that, what I always say when I help someone out
Mhm.
in some way, I a lot of times say, I don't need anything besides that you pay it forward. So a lot
Absolutely.
of times when I give people a compliment at work, I always say afterwards, it's now your job that when you see someone that you love what they're doing,
Yeah,
tell them, because life is too short. And
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's what it's all about, isn't it? And, and it's a bit like the networking thing. You don't want anything back, but something will come back, because it always does. That's my thing, is that you do something, and because it's the right thing to do, but that'll mean that something good has already happened to you or will happen to you, because of that, and you won't even know it was related. And that's a bit woo woo and a bit manifesty, and but it
No,
works for me.
I totally agree. And I always say that, like, for me, my impact is immeasurable, because you don't know, we have this conversation. I don't know if you're going to go call someone in your life and say, I
Yeah,
spoke to this person, Mallory, and she taught
yeah,
me this. You don't
yeah.
know, which I'm probably going to do, is I'm going to call my best friend, Steph, and say, I got off this amazing podcast and we talked about all these topics. And then, Steph's going to be affected, and then she might go
Yeah,
tell someone else. So you never know those things. It's not measurable. You can't measure that in social media,
yeah.
followers. You can't in monetary. And so I always remind myself and people around me that just remember that your impact is immeasurable, but your energy that you can give out is limitless, and you just keep focusing on that, and everything else will eventually come.
Oh, I love that. And that's such a lovely way to sort of like end with that wisdom. This has been so wonderful, Mallory. How can people connect with you, learn more about what you're doing and what you're up to, about your foundation and about your movement? How can people get in touch with you?
Definitely. So the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn, which is just my name, Mallory Rothstein, or Instagram and Twitter at I Learn with Mal. And then I have my website, www.ilearnwithmal.com, which has pretty much everything there. More Than an Admin is going to be launching, like I said, a podcast very soon.
Brilliant.
I'm hoping I can get it up within the week, but I always forget that sometimes, when you upload, it takes a couple days, but that's going to really be a soon thing. And I hope that any, administrative professionals that are listening to this, that, join us, and that if you're not an administrative professional, I always say that when you meet them, my only, one request I ask is that you just respect and view admins the same way you would the people that they support.
That's amazing and so true, and good lesson for life. You treat everyone as if they're the king or queen of England, isn't it? And that,
Yes.
nothing, and then, that is all, everything's all good then, isn't it, really? So I love that, Mallory. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. It's been absolutely lovely to hear from you. And that's it for the Dawn Jarvis show today, which is brought to you by dawnjarvis.com. Take care. And hopefully we'll speak again soon. Bye now. Bye, Mallory.
Thank you for listening to the Dawn Jarvis Show. If you enjoyed this episode, there are 2 things you can do. Number 1, leave Dawn a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to her if you took a moment out of your time to post your thoughts on the show. It will help Dawn reach so many more people and help them with their well-being. Number 2, subscribe to Dawn's email list, the Diverse Nurse Digest, using the link in the show notes. Until the next time, thank you and goodbye.